Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. So a couple things before we get started. Yes, we're late again this week. Unfortunately, as I stated last week, a friend of mine went in the hospital. He's getting better, just to let everybody know. But it's still kind of taking up some time and stuff. But that's okay. You know, that's what friends are for. Once again, kind of going back to be kind. Helping everybody, helping people out, you know, whether you know them or not. Always lend a helping hand. It's always a good thing. So quickly, we'll go through this week's stuff behind me. I'm going to move out of the way, and I'll move out of the way so you can see. Okay, so first off, we have Stuck Rubber Baby by Howard Cruz. That is probably one of the most important comics almost of all time. It's an autobiography about Howard Cruz growing up gay in the South, and then during the 60s and 70s. It's really just a brilliant story. Then we have the Wonder Woman 100 project by the Hero Initiative, where 100 artists do covers for, or do drawings on blank Wonder Woman covers, and there'll be a reason for that in this week's review why I picked Wonder Woman. Then we have Matt Wagner's Trinity, which is DC's Holy Trinity: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Really great story. Matt Wagner writes and draws that. Then we have Shazam. This is actually the first of 3 hardcover reprints of the 1970s Shazam, after DC had bought the rights, or basically earned the rights to Captain Marvel from Fawcett after they sued them. In 73, they started a new series, and the original artist, C.C. Beck, actually did the first, I don't remember exact issues, but he drew the first few issues of the book. I'm a really big fan of C.C. Beck's artwork, and it's really quite good. I mean, obviously, the stories, kind of ebb and flow depending on who the writer was, but overall, it was a fun period. It's too bad they don't call him Captain Marvel, which is what he should be called, because that is what he is. And then finally, we have Private Eyes, by Brian K. Vaughan and Marcos Martin. That's actually was originally a web comic, and it was wonderfully reprinted in Image. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that hardcover was a one printing only. So they were pretty easy to find back in the day. I think they might be a little more difficult today to find, but if you can find it, it's really good book. And I also like the fact that it's done horizontal instead of vertical. It just gives it a different look. It's kind of a different feel. One other thing I wanted to go to before I get to this week's reviews. My good pal Jimmy Robinson, who did Junkrabbit, which and it's not because he's my pal. I like the book. I really enjoyed the book a lot. So we got together. Well, I saw him at San Diego. It was really great. But I had brought my books to have him sign and stuff, or the Junkrabbits that had come out, and so unfortunately, we kind of, just as with Comic-Con, you know how it goes, we ran out of time. So I just gave him the books and said, hey, just ship them to me, just sign them and ship them to me, whenever you get a chance, and I'll pay you back for, the shipping and everything, because, it's fine, it's all good. So one of the things was I gotten a blank cover, and, I was gonna, get Jimmy to do a commission, because I love Jimmy's stuff. So this is what came back. I'll kind of hold it here for a second. This is really an amazing drawing, and I'll kind of go in a little bit so you can see it, how he colored it and everything. It's just really wonderful stuff. Really gorgeous artwork. And so he sent it to me, and my birthday was last month, and so I when he sent it, I sent him a message and said, hey, how much do I owe you for the postage and for the blank cover commission. He goes, it's your birthday present. So that was really an amazing birthday present. Thank you, Jimmy. And the trade paperback of Junk Rabbit is going to be coming out soon. I don't think it's out yet. I'm pretty sure it's not out yet, but it should be coming soon. Check that out when it comes to your local comic shop. I really enjoyed it. And he said that there's a good possibility there might be some more Junk Rabbit stories in the future. So we'll see if that happens. But once again, thanks, Jimmy. And it kind of goes back to supporting creators. When you see creators and stuff like that. If they do commissions, you can always do commissions because, that's money in their pocket. Another thing, really quick, kind of going back to the Hero Initiative, a lot of times at convention when the Hero Initiative is there, a lot of creators have a little bucket and you can make a donation. You can make a donation of $1, whatever you do, whatever you feel like. Cause, what it is a lot of creators, and I understand it. It's, unfortunately part of the market now is sometimes they'll charge for signatures, but what a lot of them will do with the Hero Initiative, instead of charging you, it's like whatever you donate, and I'm a huge supporter of the Hero Initiative. So if you do happen to go to a convention where the Hero Initiative is and artists or writers or whatever have the little bucket out, even if you don't get anything signed, just, if you stop by and say, hey, thanks, I like your work and everything, and have bucket, throw a buck in there, if everybody put a buck in the bucket, it would add up after a while. So definitely support the Hero Initiative, because what that does is they help creators in need. If they need to help pay their rent, they need money for food, they need any sort of assistance, they're there to help creators. So it's really good for the industry as a whole. So I'm a huge supporter of the Hero Initiative, and you should be too. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, this week's books are pretty big, and excuse me, I'm so excited. I'm getting choked up here because there's so many good books this week. First up, we have Wonder Woman #1 by Tom King and Daniel Sampray. Now, they do nicely include the legacy number on there. It's issue 801. So that kind of works out, being the first issue of 800. What this is, so it starts off that there's a rogue Amazon that goes into this bar and basically beats up all the guys in the bar because they're being mean to the women. And so in reaction to that, Congress passes the Amazon Safety Act, where they basically kick out all, Amazons are not allowed on U.S. soil. So they create an agency, Amazon Extradition Entity, run by Sergeant Steele. So they start, going after Amazons, and I don't want to give too much away in the story, but it's really interesting because it's kind of very timely at the same time, with a lot of angry, people with anti-immigrant, feelings right now. But then they try to capture Wonder Woman, and that does not go well for Sergeant Steele and his little gang, because, she's like, this is, she says, this is my home. So it's really a good start to this book. As you know, I'm a really big fan of Tom King. I think he's really kicked this off. Wonder Woman has always been a real challenge book to write, because you have to really get it right. And I'm really happy that Tom King's writing it for a couple reasons. One, that I like Tom King, but two, hopefully this will get people to buy Wonder Woman. That's really always been the challenge of getting people to buy Wonder Woman. Hopefully this will help. And it's definitely well worth reading. And Sampray's art is really, really nice. This is a really great looking book. It's really, the art's good, the story's good. This is a really good kickoff and a very interesting story. I like. That's kind of the big thing. The story is really, really good. And then you have Sampray coming in with that artwork. Just really wonderful stuff. So definitely a must buy this week. Next up, we have Rare Flavors #1, written by Ram V with artwork by Felipe Andre. So this is the same team who did The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, and if you haven't bought that, shame on you. Not only is there a trade of it, but there's a gorgeous hardcover that is really just go buy it. It's that book is that good. So what this is you have Ruben Backish, who kind of wants to be the next Anthony Bourdain, kind of like a food guru. And so he wants to hire this young filmmaker, Mo, who has made films but has gotten out of it for quite unknown reasons. And so Ruben, obviously this guy is like rich or something. There's something kind of going on underneath, whether he's rich, whether he's like, we don't know. We don't know. It's kind of weird. There's kind of a bit of a supernatural thing laying underneath. But anyways, he tries to get Mo to, he wants to document him on his food journey. And what's interesting is one of the ways he tries to convince Mo is by showing him this homemade film he made as a kid. And Mo's like, how'd you get that? And everything. And that kind of leads to like, what is, kind of who or what is Ruben? We're not quite sure, but it's really, really a really wonderful first issue. Really, Ram V's really sets up the story very nicely. He gets, there's exposition there, but there's just like a layer of like unknown and everything. It's literally the best way I can kind of describe it. It's like, peeling back the layers of like an onion. I mean, you peel back a layer and you kind of see more, and it's just absolutely wonderful. And then you have Andre's artwork, which is just stunning. It is just really gorgeous, not only with the line work, but the color work that goes with it. It's just, I mean, like I said, I was a huge fan of Many Deaths of Layla Starr, and this is really a great book. I really cannot recommend this book enough. I'm really fingers crossed that they do a nice hardcover like they did with Layla Starr up front instead of waiting like they did, because the hardcover came much later than the regular book. But once again, Rare Flavors is a definitely must buy this week. I really enjoyed this book. Great story and great artwork. Next up, we have Captain America #1, written by J. Michael Straczynski with artwork by Jesus Saez. So the last reboot of Captain America was kind of like okay. It felt kind of very standard comic bookish. So I was, I obviously was a bit hesitant on this, but J. Michael Straczynski is a really good writer. And, sometimes the comics can be, as with any writer, sometimes they're hot and cold. But he hasn't really done, a fairly regular book in a while. I know he's doing that new book at AWA, but this is kind of his first, kind of coming back to mainstream. And I have to say, I really enjoyed this. And what is interesting, what he's doing is it kind of has to do with, Steve Rogers in present day, but it also how it relates to his past. So the apartment building that he's living in, they're selling it because they they're not making much money and they want to sell it and, get the money. And, somebody's going to just level the place and probably build, billion-dollar condos. So Steve actually calls up Tony Stark and says, hey, I need some, I need a loan or whatever to, and he ends up buying the building and, fixing it up because that's where he grew up. That's his connection to this building. So it's very interesting how Straczynski, blends like how the past affects the present and how the present takes from the past. And it's really an interesting story. And I like the fact that the vast majority of it wasn't Cap being a superhero. You're actually getting to know like Steve Rogers in like a different way. And I always say, especially with superheroes, don't write for the hero, write for the character. So in this case, he is actually writing a Steve Rogers story, and that's what really makes this good. Saez's artwork is really nice. It's a really nice, clean-looking book. And I just think it's really interesting kind of telling this story of Steve Rogers in the past, because not a lot of stories have been actually told about Steve before he became Captain America. So that's kind of an interesting angle, and I really enjoyed this first issue. It's definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have Catwoman number 57, written by Tini Howard with artwork by Nico Leone. Now, this is part 3 of the Gotham Wars. So in the last part, and it's a bit of a spoiler, so if you haven't read it, just skip ahead here. I'm telling you, spoiler, that Vandal Savage has bought Wayne Manor, and of course the Batcave that goes with it. So Batman's obviously not only on a rampage against Catwoman, so the basic premise is Catwoman has gotten all of the villains' henchmen together. Instead of killing people and stuff like that, they're actually becoming, like this band of Robin Hood where they're stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. And then the henchmen take a percentage, so they can, it's like their new job. So Batman's really pissed about that. Now he's pissed about Vandal Savage buying the Batcave, basically. And Red Hood is kind of like, well, Catwoman's kind of got a good idea here because crime is way down. So really we're kind of, at the third, kind of getting to the middle of the story where it's just kind of slowly continuing. And so Vandal Savage, obviously, and I won't give it away here, but there's a connection with someone that Catwoman is working with. So that's kind of what's going on in this issue. Once again, I'm not a big crossover guy. This issue is good. It kind of keeps the momentum of the story going. I do like the fact that it's just taking place in 2 books. It's taking place in Batman and Catwoman. So, you're not having to buy like 50 books. You're still having to buy more books than you might regularly, but I don't think it's a super crazy amount. Am I blown away by this story? No, but I think it's kind of intriguing. I think the big key is going to be where it's going to end up at. That's going to be part of it. So, we'll kind of see. I'm liking it as a reading experience. I wouldn't say, like I said, I'm overwhelmed, but it's been a pretty good read. Next up, we have Fishflies number 2, written and drawn by Jeff Lemire. So, before I preface this, so apparently there was a printing error in this book on page 43. There was some sort of lettering problem or something. Now, there's not, you can actually read it, but I think there was something like not right with the lettering or something like that, or the way it was worded or something. So now it's very possible that your comic shop put this book out. I don't know when they sent the kind of recall, or basically they told the comic stores to just to throw them away because they're going to reprint it. So that the reprint will come out in October. He said it's not going to affect the schedule because issue 3 is still going to come out on time. It's just they're going to reprint issue 2. So with that being said, I'm still going to review it at this point because it was technically new this week. And the good thing is the lettering issue only affected 1 page, so you could still read it. So the basic premise here is, so there was a bad guy. He was robbing a convenience store. These kids come in. Where this kid comes in, he kind of shoots him by accident. And while he's and he gets shot, and while he's getting away, these fish flies attack him and bite him, and they turn him into this giant fish fly. And so she ends up on this kind of farm where there's a little girl, Franny Fox, who befriends him. And so now it's kind of the adventures of Franny and the giant, fish fly guy. I'm a big fan of Lemire, and I really, really enjoy this book because it's kind of like, it's a horror story. It's a redemption story. There's a lot going on here, and Lemire is so good with all this. And originally it was originally a digital comic, but he's kind of done it for this print version. It was kind of like he says that the original digital version was kind of a template for what the final version would be. So he's kind of redone the art and stuff like that. The one thing I really want to point out, this second issue has a gorgeous Kelly Jones cover, and I'm a big Kelly Jones fan. So if your local comic shop does not have issue 2 this week, now you know why they might not have it. Yes, technically it did come out, but they have been told to destroy those copies and they're going to get replacements for them. So, but if you did pick it up, like I said, I didn't think the lettering issue on page 43 was a huge didn't really ruin anything of the story or anything. So I'll be curious because I do have these kind of first printings of it. So I'm curious to kind of see what the change will be when the second printing does, or when the reprint comes out. But otherwise, I'm still a big fan of Fishflies. So definitely pick up the second issue when it comes out in October if you can't get it now, and check out this wonderful series. I really, really enjoy this book, and I'm a big fan of Lemire, as you all know. So check it out when it comes out. Definitely pick it up. Next up, we have Green Lantern: The War Journal #1, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson with artwork by Motos. So now this story takes place after the 3 backups in the first 3 issues of Green Lantern. So you really kind of need to read that before you read this. And I really do not like when companies, and DC's been really bad about this lately. Because some people might go and go, oh, this is this new John Stewart story. And it's like, okay, wait, there's like, kind of basically an issue before it, or almost like 3, like an issue before it, that before the story that kind of sets us up. So I don't think you're going to be super lost, but I think, if they were really smart, they would have just printed that and then printed this issue, but that's just me. But anyways, so the story is that John Stewart's on Earth. The Green Lantern Corps has been disbanded. Something happened with that. I didn't read that part. But basically, what it is the Earth sector has been banned. It's been cut off, and so part of the story is that John Stewart's kind of he kind of doesn't want to be Green Lantern anymore, but once you fly, you can't say, oh, I don't want to fly again. So it's kind of like that. And then there's some sort of mysterious contagion force that is coming to Earth, and Calone, one of the Green Lanterns is coming to Earth to not only to find this and to find John, because all this craziness is going on. I wasn't super overwhelmed by the backups, because once again, you're kind of reading, short chunks of it in these backups. And, this is kind of an okay story. I mean, I like John Stewart and everything. I just wasn't particularly overwhelmed. I like certain parts of this story, but not necessarily like, oh, wow, this is really great. I do like how Kennedy Johnson is handling John Stewart. Because he's kind of a challenged character to really get right, not to write, but to get correct. And he's doing a good job. Motos's artwork is really, really nice, very detailed and everything. But I just kind of like, it's hard to in some ways recommend, because if you're reading this first issue, you're missing the first, like the 0 issue. That's the best way to put it. So I'm kind of like disappointed in DC that they should have maybe just put a double issue out, or reprinted, the first issue or something. I don't know. So that's a bit of a problem with this, because you're kind of coming into a story that's already started. So just be cautious of that. Next up, we have Klik, Klik, Boom #4, written by Doug Wagner with artwork by Doug Dabbs. So last issue, Sprout, she's basically going after Dillinger, who's the bad guy who killed her father. Now she's mute, so she doesn't talk, but she does hear. So she communicates by taking Polaroids, and the Polaroids tell her, like that's how she speaks. She got hooked up with this reporter, Serena, who it appeared last issue she had died. And so, but she actually didn't. So Dillinger has her in this hospital. He's like, like a super billionaire. So he's like, he controls, like he can do whatever he wants. Like he controls the police force and everything. And so he's got Serena kind of as to get, Sprout to come and rescue her, and she comes and rescues her, and it does not go well for Dylan's gang of thugs trying to protect him. And it's really an interesting. I don't want to give any more away, but all I have to say is I love this book. I really, really like this book. It's really I really think it's flying under the radar. It's just really fascinating how Wagner is telling the story, and a lot of times the story is actually told through pictures. It's a very visual story, and that's where Dabbs comes in. He's really nailing the visuals on this book. It's really amazing. It's really heartfelt. It's got action. It's really got everything. I mean, story and art are just blending together perfectly. I love this book to death. I really hope you pick it up. If I know it's probably the print run hasn't been particularly huge on this book, but I would say, we're at the fourth issue. I think it's 5 or 6. I'm not sure, but when this comes out as a trade, I'm even going to buy the trade. I love this book to death, and definitely if you can find the first 3 issues to go with 4. Definitely pick it up. This is a really great book. Next up, we have Predator versus Wolverine, #1, written by Benjamin Percy. And there's 3 different artists. So the present day artwork is by Ken Lashley. Then there's the Young Wolverine artwork with pencils by Greg Land and inks by Jay Liston. And then there's the Team X sequence that is drawn by Andre DeVito. So really what this is, so it starts off in the present day. The Predator's going after Wolverine. Wolverine's not looking pretty good. It's pretty ugly for Wolverine. The Predator's kind of kicking his ass. And then it cuts to the 1900s in Alaska. So Wolverine's been around for quite a while because obviously, because of his healing, he doesn't really age that much. And so he kind of he does age, but it's very slow because he keeps regenerating. And so the Predators, go back to the 1900s where they came to Earth. And so that's his first encounter with them. And so that, then you're like, oh, okay, that kind of explains maybe the present day that hey, wait, this guy, we tried to kill him once, it didn't work. So now we're going to come back again. And then the third part of this story is that in South America many years ago, he's part of this mutant team that has Sabretooth, Jackson, Cruel, Maverick, and Wolverine, and they encounter the Predators. So really what kind of they're showing is that the Predators have been coming to Earth for quite a while, and now they're coming to the Marvel Universe. That's really what this book is. I have to say the story is actually pretty fun. Probably my favorite part is actually the 1900s where Percy actually, kind of gets to, like Wolverine, this is pre mutants and stuff, and but he's still Wolverine, and he goes into a bar and these guys come over and he kind of kicks their ass. But it's really interesting. Whenever you have these crossover books, the really the big key is, does Wolverine feel like Wolverine, and does the Predator feel like Predator? And in both cases, yes, it feels like Wolverine and it feels like the Predator. Really this first issue is a setup. It's not, I don't think it's necessarily going to blow you away, but it does tell, put these 2 characters in the, a situation that's interesting. I like the different eras of, having the Predator show up. So I think that's, kind of a neat twist on the story instead of just oh, here's Predator, here's Wolverine. They're just going to fight for 12 issues. So in that case, I do like how Percy has kind of broken that up. The artwork on all of it's really nice. Lachey's, starts in the beginning, and then it goes to the Land artwork, and then DeVito's last. Obviously they all have different styles, but then they're different eras, so that makes a lot of sense. I really enjoyed all the artwork, but the Land sequence was really good, and that's partially because of the story. But overall, all the artwork's really nice. So it's a fun book. If you can kind of turn your brain off and read it. It's just fun. It's Predator versus Wolverine. What more could you ask for? Next up, we have Nightwing number 106, written by Tom Taylor with artwork by Stephen Byrne. And there's a backup, Breakfast for Dinner, written by Michael W. Conrad with artwork by Serge Acuna. So what this issue is, so it's kind of a continuation of the quartermaster story that started previously to 100, where what it is there's the quartermaster has the ship that's full of lockers of stuff, and it's like the greatest vault in the world. It's better than Fort Knox. And so the story, this issue starts off where there's a story of this guy who leaves a pack, he wants to have a package, and the quarter, he goes to the bar, and the barkeep, kind of knows the quartermaster, and the quartermaster comes and he says, okay, who do you want, what name do you want on it? And he put Nightwing. So go to present day, Heartless comes to get into the ship, into the lockers. He kills the quartermaster, and then he goes in and the ship's gone. So he didn't take the ship. It's like, where's the ship? What's going on? So there's that part of the story. And then, so Nightwing, comes to the murder scene. Then he finds out that the quartermaster's been taken away, but not by a regular ambulance. So there's something going on with that. Maybe that's why the ship is missing. So there's the quartermaster, possible death. We have the Heartless, who's still on the loose, sucking people's hearts out of their bodies. And then we have the mystery of what was in the locker for Nightwing, and the locker's missing. So that's what's going on here. This is kind of it is a fair jumping on point for new readers, but shame on you if you haven't been reading Nightwing, because it's honestly one of the best superhero books out there right now. Tom King's knocking out of the park. Stephen Byrne, I'm getting a little worried because Bruno Redondo, now he's still doing the covers, but he must have, hopefully he's just doing catch up right now on the book, and so that's why they've been having guest artists come in. They've actually been, I love Stephen Byrne's artwork, and I think he's a good choice for the book. I think it gives it a very similar style to like Bruno, so it's not like completely different, but Stephen Byrne's doing a nice job. I know he's on for looks like this story arc, so we'll kind of see. Hopefully Bruno will come back. The backup is kind of fun. It's a pretty simple story. It's about Dick and Cass making pancakes, and Stephanie comes home, and they're having pancakes. What's kind of interesting, and once again, it's kind of a short story, so you're just getting a little taste of it, that somebody is watching them, and why they're watching them, we don't know. Do they know who they are, or do they, so it's a little bit vague on what, but we'll kind of see how that story unfolds. Like I said, it's hard to tell exactly from this first issue, but it was a nice setup to the story, and Akuna's artwork's nice. So I'm still a big fan of this book, and hopefully we'll kind of see where this disappearing ship locker will go. Next up, we have Rumpus Room #1, written by Mark Russell, with artwork by Ramon Rosenas. So really the basic story is that you have Bob Shrunk, who is this billionaire who has this hideous skin condition. And so he needs this very special cream that is not FDA approved, because it's basically cream made from living people's bodies. And so what it is this billionaire basically captures people, puts them in a room, and then they have to decide, okay, who's going to go next to get killed? And usually they just vote somebody out. It's like, like voting somebody off the island, except for they just die. And so he makes this cream, and, but the neatest, one of the kind of weirdest, funniest things about this, I mean, it's not funny, but it is, because it's just bizarre irony, is that the guards are in these like costumes from like an amusement park. And so like, because they have a lot of padding and they were probably cheap. I don't know. But, you know, obviously you have a crazy billionaire killing people for face cream. That's the basic premise of this story. But you also have kind of the side story of like the people that are, you know, being, captured by him. So there's kind of that story going on. And there's a woman at the beginning of this story that comes in and she's a cop and she's got a gun. So now like the detainees are like, oh, wait, this could work out for our benefit. So that kind of changes the game on their end. Once again, it's Mark Russell. You have me at Mark Russell. I mean, it's always, I'm a big fan of his books. Really, the big plus for this is Rosanos's artwork. It's really a good looking book, and he does a really nice job of kind of. Once again, this issue, especially this first issue, is a lot of talking heads, and I always say if you're an artist and you can convince me to be, to kind of visually move the story while people are standing there talking, that's always a plus. And Ronanos does that very well here. So you really had me. Tony Harris did the cover, and one of the alternate covers, I guess he's doing alternate covers for each issue, is Mark Russell's actually drawing things on it. It's like a framed piece of artwork. I'll put the art up here. And apparently each issue is going to have a cover with him doing kind of weird, kind of like childlike artwork. So that'll be kind of fun too. So look for those. And they are orderable covers. They're not special. They're not incentive covers. So you could just order those. So if you want, check with your local retailer and see if they can still order that cover if you want that. But otherwise, definitely pick this book up this week. I really enjoyed it. Definitely in the must-buy pile. Next up, we have Titans number 3, written by Tom Taylor with artwork by Nicholas Scott. So now this is the first issue to come back after the whole Night Terrors fiasco. So you might want to go back and read the first 2 issues, but to somewhat catch you up, that the Church of the Blood, which is kind of came out of the Brother Blood thing, they're trying to make, we're a good, church now. We're trying to help people and stuff. And so Aqualad is kind of joined the church, and they're kind of like, So they go to the church, and then they find out that they're actually doing the sacrifices and the blood and everything. So Gar and Dick are there, so they call the rest of the Titans to come in. There's a subplot with Wally. I'm not going to go into that. Just go back and read the first 2 issues. But as we know, the Church of the Blood, things are not going to be what they seem, and that's all I'll say, because there's a really nice cliffhanger at the end that Taylor wrote. As I stated when I reviewed the first issues a few months back, this really has a great feel of the Marv Wolfman, George Perez era of Titans. And when I spoke to Tom Taylor at Comic-Con this year, during the Eisner Awards, he very much said that was definitely the where he was going with this book, is he really wanted to kind of take it back to that era and, kind of build on what, George and Marv did with the book. Which has always been, for me, I think, really the anchor for the Titans, story and art wise. And both Taylor and Scott are really knocking it out of the park here. I really enjoy this book, and I think it's also kind of getting back to basics, but he's also, as Taylor has done with Nightwing and in many of his other books, really developing the characters of the Titans, which was a hallmark of the Wolfman Perez run. So that's really what... like once again, you can do the superhero stuff and that's all great, but I need to care about these characters, and Taylor and Scott are making me really care about these characters again. So it's definitely a big plus. Hopefully you can find the first 2 issues, but definitely continue to pick up this book. I really, really enjoy it. Next up, we have The Lonesome Hunters, The Wolf Child, number 3, written and drawn by Tyler Crook. So I'll preface this again. You really need to read the first miniseries to kind of, to read this one, because that sets up the story. This is basically a second story arc. They're just doing it as a different miniseries instead of starting with issue 5. It just renumbered to number 1. So we have Howard, who has basically, I guess you could say, like the God Sword, and so by having it, he's like 126 years old. So it's actually slowed him down. And not given, he's not going to live forever, but he's not, he certainly doesn't look 126 years old. So he's met up with Lupe. And so really this part of the story is, so you have this church that is going after Howard to get the God Sword back. And along the way, they have stopped in this town where there's this wolf beast, and then this wolf child. It's kind of like this, kind of like its kid. It's a human, but apparently the wolf has kind of taken this child under her wings, and so the townspeople are pissed because the wolf monster's eating cows and stuff, and so you have that going. Then you have zealots from the church, coming to get the sword from Howard. So all these things are kind of coming together, and Lupe and Howard, try to go help the wolf. And I'm not going to say anymore because I don't want to give any away of the story, but I really enjoyed the first story arc of the series, and I'm really liking where Crook is taking the second story arc, where he's still dealing with, kind of the subplot of the God Sword, basically. But I also like how he's introducing, kind of they're on this road trip, and how, how they're dealing with things along the way. They're coming across stuff. The story's really good. Of course, Crook's artwork is really fantastic. It's a really great looking book. I really enjoy this, but definitely you really need to read the first story arc to really appreciate what Crook is doing with this second story arc. So don't just pick up this book. Definitely go pick the trade and then start reading this book. Or you can wait and buy both trades. Or if you have the first trade, you can wait for the second trade. But I really enjoy this book. I think it's well worth checking out for sure. Next up, we have Harley Quinn, Black plus White plus Redder, number 3. So now each issue has 3 stories. So the first one is a Deeply Strange Adventure, written by Gail Simone, with artwork by David Baladon. Then we have a Stacked Deck, written by Chris Condon, with artwork by Jacob Phillips. And then the final story is The Rebound, written by Idea Bittaker, sorry about that, and Junie Baugh, with artwork by Junie Baugh. So we'll kind of go through each story. So the transported, or the Harley, the adventure, the Deeply Strange Adventure. So it has to do with Adam Strange, and the Zeta Beam comes to Earth and then takes him back to Rann. So Harley Quinn kind of shoves him out of the way and she goes back to Rann. And so she basically has to be like Adam Strange and defeat the bad guys. And that's pretty much the story, but it's obviously really humorous and everything. Gail Simone really nails the story. She has a great balance of she gets Harley Quinn, and that's always a plus. It's a fun little story. Baladon's artwork's really, really nice. I really enjoyed the artwork. It's a fun little story. The second one, the Stacked Deck, is really kind of a how it's kind of a behind story of how Harley kind of came to, interview the Joker while she was a psychiatrist. So really it's kind of a a story within that story. That's what that is. Condon does a nice job. I don't think it really reveals too much, but it's a solid story. Phillips' artwork's really nice. It has kind of a bit of a David Muselli look to it, and it's certainly not knocking Phillips or anything. It's really a nice looking story, and the way that the red is used in it, I really enjoyed it. I liked his minimalist kind of approach to the artwork, where it was really kind of stripped down. It's really good looking, but really the fun one of the book. Nothing against the others, but the rebound was hilarious, because So what it is she gets dumped by the Joker. So she rebounds with a black cat. And so she decides, they're having having good time together, partying, drinking, watching movies, having pizza or whatever. And then she decides, hey, I know, me and Poison, Ivy has kind of, we've been a little estranged. So I'm going to go steal this plant this famous plant. So she takes the cat along as like her partner. And guess what? A cat does what a cat does. Cat sets off the alarm, doesn't fight or anything, sitting there licking its, butt while, she's trying to like fend off the guards. It is freaking hilarious. I love it. Loved it to death. Bittaker's story is Bittaker and Ba's story is really fun. And Ba's artwork is just perfect. It's absolutely perfect. It has such a, the way she lays out the panels. It's so much fun. It really is. The great thing I like about these books is, one, they're short stories, so you really got it. You got to nail it. You got to stick the landing. And thankfully, all the stories do stick the landing here. Plus, you get this, varying different styles of artwork, which is always a blast. And I also like the fact that, you're limited on your color palette. You literally have 3 colors to work with. So you can really use that to your advantage. And all 3 have done that very well here. So this was a digital first, but now these are finally coming into print. So definitely, if you're and they're all one and done. So like if you missed the first couple issues, it's fine, because all these stories stand on their own. So another one that's well worth checking out this week. Next up, we have Disney Villains Hades #2, written by Elliot Calan, with artwork by Alessandro Rinaldi. So this continues the story. So what the basic premise here is Hades is trying to get the Golden Fleece, to basically prove that he's worthy of being a god and, kind of show off and like, haha, I can do this. The problem is that the Golden Fleece was protected by a dragon, so he's been getting this like ragtag team of like, I guess you could say third string bad guys together. So he's gotten a couple so far, but he decides to get the Minotaur who's in the labyrinth, and the way he convinces him to come along for the ride, basically, I will not reveal, but it's freaking hilarious, and it's silly, stupid fun how he, it's a very simple thing. He dangles not a carrot, but a carrot-like thing, and then the Minotaur's like, okay, I'll come with you because you gave me the carrot. This is a fun little book. I mean, Hades, I'm a big fan of Hercules, so I like the fact that Hades is a really great villain. And, we haven't seen much of Pain and Panic, which is a little sad, but then it is Hades. So we do kind of see him a little bit in each issue. But I like the story. It's kind of an adventure story. It's, it's not so much I'm a villain and I'm a bad guy, which is a smart move. I definitely will give Calan that he's, kind of creating adventure. It just happens to be with a villain. Rinaldi's artwork is really nice. He really captures that kind of cartoony feel, which is really perfect. I'm really digging this book. I'm really happy that Dynamite's kind of doing different stuff with like the Disney, license, where they're kind of doing different stuff. And even though like Maleficent, I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of, I'm glad that it just didn't feel very standard. And that's what I'm liking about these books so far. Same with the Darkwing Duck. They're just, the creators are really having fun with these. And this one's well worth picking up, especially if you're a fan of Hercules like me. Definitely pick it up. Next up, we have Hawkgirl #3, written by Jadeza Axelrod, with artwork by Amine Anilpan. So this is, it's the middle part of the story. So, we're kind of like, the first 2 have kind of set it up. So, Volpicula she's the villain. I know I'm totally pronouncing that wrong, but it's spelled funny. so she's now come to Gotham, and she's kind of working with the Court of Owls to try to get the nth metal, which is what Hawkgirl's wings are made out of. So, of course, along the way, there's the Court of Owls. We have Batman showing up. Why? Because they're in Gotham, because Batman has to show up. So it's kind of it wasn't, it's definitely a middle issue in that respect. So it's kind of, moving the story along. I wouldn't say it moved the story along a lot. I do like this book, but just kind of looking at this issue by itself, I wouldn't say that it's a letdown, but it's a middle issue, and those are always kind of tough because you have your high of the beginning, and then you kind of have your big ending, and then in between sometimes you have a little bit of a dip because it's moving the story arc along, but not necessarily super exciting or anything like the beginning and the end. So this one kind of suffers a little bit of sag, but I don't think it's terrible. I mean, Axelrod's moving the story along, and I do like the Court of Owls thing, but I also like the fact that she's still building Hawkgirl as a character, and that's been the one thing that I've really enjoyed about this. That she's really giving her character. Nalupan's artwork is really, really nice. It's a really nice looking book, and I really like the owl monster that is drawn in this issue. It's really, really nice. But like I said, it's kind of a middle issue. I think it's going to be, it started off strong, and I wouldn't say it's like SAG that bad. It's just a middle issue. But if you have been enjoying it, I think you're going to enjoy this. I think, but it's going to read better when you kind of read it in one shot than it is a single issue in that respect. And finally, this week we have ROM #1 Facsimile edition, written by Bill Mantlo with artwork by Sal Buscema. So Marvel's made a deal. Marvel has done licensing in the past with Hasbro. And because they did the Transformers, they did G.I. Joe, they also did the Micronauts, which was originally not owned by Hasbro, but they ended up buying it. And then ROM was actually a Parker Brothers property. It was actually a toy, and then of course Hasbro owns it now. So ROM was, I actually had the ROM. Action figure is a loose term on that because basically his arms kind of went like this and his legs went like this. The big thing about ROM was that he, 9-volt battery, and he has his eyes lit up. He made like weird breathing sounds, and then he had like 3 attachments. There was like a ray gun, a translator, and what do they call it? ROM's energy analyzer. They thankfully reprint the ad for the toy in the back because they're saying, hey, look, he's in a comic book now. So really what Mantlo and Buscema did here is they're like, okay, we have this toy that basically does nothing but make sounds, and it's really kind of cool because he has LED eyes. And at the time, LEDs was kind of like a new shiny thing. He was kind of expensive, if I remember correctly, back when he came out, but he was really cool looking. I just didn't really do much. But that was kind of the interesting thing, how Mantlo came up with his entire backstory of him and race, and they're like, they're like armored, soldiers from this alien race. And, so he's come to Earth because he's race. What he does, he kind of like, there's no gray area. Mantlo totally stole the Phantom Zone thing. So what his ray does is when it hits a wraith, it sends them to a Phantom Zone where they don't die, but they're there for eternity. So it's the Phantom Zone. There's no gray area. Just don't call it the Phantom Zone. So it's really interesting. It's of its time, but the main reason we're seeing this Facsimile edition is because they have made a licensing deal with Hasbro to license out ROM and Micronauts to bring them back in. They're doing omnibuses of those series. And the main reason that there's been 2 things why some of this stuff has not been reprinted. One, obviously the license is with Hasbro, but 2, some of the issues have there's issues of ROM that have X-Men in it. Same with Micronauts, they had some Marvel characters because at the time they could just put Marvel characters in there. So that's one of so now that they've got the license to reprint the stuff, they can print all of the issues because Marvel owns the Marvel characters. They just needed the license to reprint the ROM character. And and down the road the Micronauts characters. So, it's kind of a nostalgia trip. I don't think I think these facsimile editions are interesting to see, partially because the ads and everything, and also how comics were done back in I'm pretty sure this was the 70s, maybe early 80s, but mostly 70s. I'm pretty sure 70s now. But it's kind of a fun nostalgic trip because I remember both the toy and the comic, obviously. Really I'm more excited about the the omnibuses that are going to come out and reprint the stories. But once again, it's a nostalgia trip if you kind of want to see what like a mediocre toy turned into a really actually pretty good comic does. It's right here. So I think they're fun, and seeing the old ads and everything of like, how this was pre-internet. I mean, dial-up phones, there were no cell phones. Toys were, once again, ROM was a big thing with the LED eyes and the sounds and stuff. It was really a big deal back then. And so it's kind of neat to take that, trip back to the past, via the comics. And definitely this was $4.99. So it was definitely a lot more expensive than when you picked it up off the newsstand. But I would say that a good, nice copy of ROM is going to run you more than $4.99. I can tell you that. Plus, you could actually read it, and the print quality is obviously much better than the original comic. Okay, that's going to do it this week. Wow, we had a long show. We had a lot to get through this week. Thanks for sticking in. We'll try to make the rest of this really quick. As always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics, Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner runs a great store. There's Annie, there's Derek, there's Wendy. It's a great store. Definitely check it out if you're in the Long Beach area. As always, please support your local comic shop. Backbone of the industry. Make sure you pick up your books on time, and do all that. But just really support your local comic shop. And finally, be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, be kind. Thank you, Debbie and John. As always, they've given me this little be kind guy, the little bee. And it's true. Just be kind to yourself. And be kind to others. It'll make you feel better. It makes others feel better. Really, and it makes the world kind of go around. So take care of yourselves. We'll do it again next week. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Comments are always welcome. Sorry for being a little late. Hopefully we'll get this thing back on track. But once again, being kind and, to yourself, and take care of yourself, take care of your friends and family. And we'll do it again next week. Thanks for watching. This is Steven from popculturemaven.com signing off. See you next week. Thanks, folks. Bye.